Hello travelers and welcome back to the Tavern. In Slavic folklore, danger lives close to everyday life. Rivers, lakes, the forest, and even inside your home. Tonight, we enter the darker side of Slavic folklore, where ordinary places become doors to something much more disturbing. Let's begin. The first creature is the Rusalka, one of the most famous spirits in Slavic folklore. She is most often associated with rivers, lakes, ponds, and wetlands, though in some traditions she can also be connected to forests and fields. Depending on the region, she may appear as a beautiful young woman, a restless ghost, or a dangerous supernatural being. A Rusalka is usually described as a young woman with long, loose hair. I think this detail is important because it keeps her from feeling like a simple monster. She still looks human, and that makes the legend more uncomfortable. Her hair may be fair, dark, greenish, or completely green, depending on the region. In Slavic tradition, loose hair was often linked to unmarried women, which helped separate the Rusalka from ordinary village women. Some folklorists believe the earliest Rusalki were connected to fertility and seasonal renewal. In older traditions, they appeared during spring and were thought to bring moisture to the fields, helping crops grow. But by the 19th century, many stories had changed. This is where the Rusalka becomes much darker. She moves from a spirit of nature into something shaped by death, grief, and fear. Rusalki were often described as restless spirits of young women who died tragically. Folklore often said these women had drowned, died by their own hand, or suffered betrayal before death. Their spirits were believed to remain tied to the places where they died. This made rivers, lakes, and wetlands feel dangerous, especially after dark. Many stories describe Rusalki singing, dancing, combing their hair, or appearing beside rivers and lakes at night. There is something very unsettling about that image. It is not violent at first, it is quiet, beautiful, and almost peaceful, which makes what comes next feel worse. Some legends say they lured men into deep water and drowned them. Others say they tickled their victims to death. Beliefs about Rusalki varied across the Slavic world. In Russia, they were commonly associated with the spirits of drowned women. In Ukraine, similar beings were often called mavki. In Belarus, Rusalki were frequently connected with forests and fields rather than rivers alone. Some traditions portrayed them as beautiful maidens, while others imagined them as pale, eerie, or even grotesque beings. Rusalki were believed to be especially active during Rusalka week, a period in early June. According to folklore, they left the water at night and gathered in trees, fields, and meadows. Many communities avoided swimming during this time, fearing that Rusalki might drag people beneath the water. At the end of the week, special rituals were sometimes performed to drive the spirits away and restore safety to the community. The Rusalka is one of the most famous figures in Slavic folklore. She appears in literature, folklore collections, paintings, music, films, and modern fantasy. Her image has changed over time, but she continues to represent the mysterious and often dangerous relationship between humans and the natural world. And that's why, for her tragic origin, her connection to drowning, and the fear she brought to rivers after dark, the Rusalka receives 4 stars on the Mythical Tavern disturbing scale. The next creature is the Leshy, one of the best known beings in Slavic folklore. He is a powerful forest spirit closely connected with wilderness, wild animals, and the deep woods. In many traditions, the Leshy is seen as the master of the forest, a being that can protect nature, confuse humans, or punish anyone who breaks the rules of his domain. The Leshy is not always described the same way. In different stories, he may appear as a giant, an old man, a hunter, a family member, an animal, a tree, or even a whirlwind. Some descriptions give him long hair, a beard, and features linked to the forest. Other stories say he can look almost exactly like an ordinary human. This is one of the creepier details. If he looked like a monster, you would run, but if he looked like a normal person, you might follow him. One of his most famous powers is shape-shifting. He can also change his size, becoming as tall as the trees or as small as the grass beneath them. Folklore says he can control wild animals, create strange sounds, summon winds and fog, and imitate human voices. For me, the voice imitation is the most disturbing part. Getting lost is scary enough, but hearing someone you know calling from the trees makes it much worse. The Leshy is especially known for leading travelers astray. People walking through his territory might hear familiar voices calling their names. They might hear crying children or the voices of friends and relatives. This is such a simple idea, but it works. In the middle of a dark forest, a familiar voice would feel safe, and that is exactly the trap. But following those sounds could lead them deeper into the forest until they become completely lost. In some stories, the Leshy is only mischievous and enjoys playing tricks on humans. In others, he is far more dangerous. He may kidnap children, abduct adults, or carry people into a hidden world inside the forest. Many Slavic traditions treated the forest as the Leshy's domain. Hunters, shepherds, and woodcutters were expected to behave with respect when entering it. Some people left offerings such as bread, salt, or eggs to gain his favor. Disrespecting the forest was believed to anger the Leshy. If offended, he could hide livestock, spoil hunts, mislead travelers, or bring misfortune to those who entered his territory carelessly. The Leshy is one of the most recognizable figures in Slavic folklore. Stories about him survive across Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Poland, and other Slavic regions. As a shape-shifting master of the wilderness, he represents the mystery, danger, and power of the ancient forest. And that's why, for his shifting form, his stolen voices, and the fear of being led forever into the deep forest, the Leshy receives 3 stars on the Mythical Tavern disturbing scale. Kikimora is a female spirit from Slavic folklore connected with homes, nightmares, and misfortune. Depending on the tradition, she may appear as a troublesome household spirit or as a dangerous swamp spirit that preys on travelers. Descriptions of the Kikimora vary widely. She is often portrayed as a thin, hunched, old woman with tangled hair and ragged clothing. In some legends, she has animal-like features, such as a bird's beak, a dog's snout, horns, or glowing eyes. In other stories, the Kikimora remains invisible. To me, this makes her much scarier. A monster you can see is frightening, but a presence you only hear is harder to escape. Instead of being seen, she reveals herself through footsteps, whispers, knocks, or objects moving on their own. This is the kind of detail that feels simple but very effective. Everyone understands how troubling a strange noise in the house can be at night. This makes her presence feel especially disturbing because the danger is inside the home but cannot always be clearly seen. In many East Slavic traditions, the Kikimora lives inside the house and is connected to domestic order. If the home is clean and well maintained, she may quietly help with chores. But if the family is lazy, abusive, or neglectful, she becomes troublesome. When angered, the Kikimora tangles thread, breaks dishes, makes noise during the night, frightens children, and causes constant disturbances. She turns the home from a safe place into a space filled with tension and fear. One of the most feared parts of the Kikimora legend is her connection to nightmares. Some traditions say she enters a room through a keyhole and sits on the chest of sleeping people. For me, this is easily the most disturbing part. It connects the legend to a fear many people understand, waking up and feeling like something is holding you down. The victim struggles to breathe and is filled with terrifying dreams. These stories are often seen as folkloric explanations for sleep paralysis and recurring nightmares. This is where folklore feels very real. Even if you do not believe in the spirit, the experience behind the story is terrifying. The feeling of being awake, unable to move, and pressed down by something unseen became part of the Kikimora's terrifying reputation. Later folklore also introduced the swamp Kikimora. This version is connected with marshes and wetlands, and unlike the household spirit, she is openly dangerous. She leads travelers away from safe paths, frightens wanderers, and in some stories, drowns those who become lost in the bog. The Kikimora is one of the most recognizable female spirits in Slavic folklore. She blends household superstition, nightmare traditions, and swamp legends into one unsettling figure. Her stories survive in folklore collections, films, fiction, and video games, where she is a symbol of fear hidden inside both the home and the wilderness. And that's why, for her unseen presence inside the home, her connection to nightmares, and the terror of something pressing down on you in the dark, the Kikimora receives 4 stars on the Mythical Tavern disturbing scale. Bannik is a bathhouse spirit from Slavic folklore. He is known as the supernatural master of the banya, the traditional Slavic steam bath. I like this idea because the Bannik is not tied to a castle, a graveyard, or a dark forest. He belongs to a normal place people used all the time. Unlike the household spirit called the domovoi, the Bannik was seen as unpredictable and potentially dangerous. The Bannik is usually described as a small, naked old man with a long beard. His body is sometimes said to be covered in wet birch leaves left behind from bathhouse rituals. Other traditions describe him as a shapeshifter who can appear as a local villager, a shadow, a stone, or even a piece of coal inside the bathhouse stove. This is one of the creepier details for me. If he can hide as something ordinary, then the whole room becomes suspicious. The banya had an important place in Slavic life. It was used for bathing, but also for childbirth, healing rituals, and divination. Because of this, many people believed the bathhouse stood on the boundary between the human world and the supernatural. The Bannik ruled this space and expected respect from anyone who entered. For me, that is the key to this legend. The Bannik is dangerous, but he also has rules. The problem starts when humans ignore them. If angered, he could become extremely dangerous. Folklore says he might throw boiling water at intruders, fill the room with suffocating steam, or even strangle those who disturbed him. Some traditions claimed that the Bannik welcomed demons and other spirits into the bathhouse. This made the banya especially dangerous after dark, when the space was believed to belong more to the supernatural than to humans. One of the strangest parts of the Bannik legend is his ability to predict the future. People sometimes consulted him by standing in the bathhouse doorway with their back exposed. If the spirit gently touched their back, good fortune was coming. If he scratched them with his claws, misfortune was believed to be near. To keep the Bannik satisfied, people left offerings after bathing. This could include soap, water, and fir branches. If a bathhouse burned down, villagers sometimes believed the spirit had been offended. In some traditions, when a bathhouse was rebuilt, a black hen was sacrificed and buried beneath the threshold to appease the Bannik and restore peace. This detail shows how seriously people treated the spirit of the bathhouse. The Bannik is one of the most unusual figures in Slavic folklore. He is neither fully evil nor truly benevolent. His stories reflect the belief that even ordinary places like a bathhouse could hide powerful supernatural forces. And that's why, for his rule over the bathhouse, his boiling water and suffocating steam, and the fear that even an ordinary place could belong to something supernatural after dark, the Bannik receives 3 stars on the Mythical Tavern disturbing scale. Next, Drekavac is one of the most feared beings in South Slavic folklore. Its name means the screamer, a name that comes from the terrifying cries it is said to make during the night. The Drekavac is most often connected to the restless souls of unbaptized children. It is also described as the spirit of a sinful or troubled dead person. These beliefs came from fears about improper burial, children who died without baptism, and souls that could not find peace after death. Over time, older Slavic beliefs mixed with later Christian ideas about salvation and the fate of the dead. Because of this, the Drekavac became a creature tied closely to death, grief, and the fear that some spirits might return from the grave. That is what makes this creature feel so disturbing to me. It comes from a very human fear that death is not always peaceful. Unlike many folklore creatures, the Drekavac does not have one fixed appearance. Some legends describe it as a ghost of a dead child. Others portray it as a strange animal-like creature. It has been described as a skeletal child, a vampire-like revenant, a dog-like monster, a cat-headed creature, a bird, a dappled fowl, or a one-legged humanoid with glowing eyes. But no matter what form it takes, its most recognizable feature is always its scream. That detail keeps the legend simple and effective. Whatever it looks like, you know it by the sound it makes in the dark. The cry of the Drekavac was believed to echo through lonely places after dark, especially graveyards, forests, riverbanks, and isolated countryside paths. In many traditions, hearing this scream was a terrible omen. People believed it could foretell death, illness, disaster, or general misfortune. Some stories even claimed that if the creature's shadow fell upon a person, that person would become gravely ill and eventually die. That is a very creepy detail because it means even being near it is dangerous. You do not have to touch it. Its shadow is enough. The Drekavac was also said to avoid dogs and bright light, preferring darkness and isolated places. This made it a creature of the night, connected with fear, warning, and the uneasy silence of places people avoided after sunset. The Drekavac is a dark figure. Its form changes from region to region, but its terrifying scream and connection to restless dead souls make it one of the most disturbing creatures in the Slavic tradition. And that's why, for its terrifying scream, its connection to restless dead souls, and the fear that hearing it in the dark could mean death was near, the Drekavac receives 5 stars on the Mythical Tavern disturbing scale. These creatures show why Slavic folklore can feel so unsettling. The danger waits in rivers, forests, homes, bathhouses, and lonely places after dark. Each legend turns something ordinary into something mysterious and unsafe. And maybe that is why these stories still feel alive today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.